Hello and welcome back. Today we look at unsolved cases from the year 2022. Although in some of these cases it seems obvious who the culprit is, they are not found guilty, so the case remains unsolved. These cases are those that have a suspicious passing or have resulted in no convictions. If you have any information on any of these cases, the details are in the description. This is a new video series I'm doing by year, so if you have any particular year that you would like me to look at unsolved cases, please let me know in the comment section. But let's get straight into these cases. Tyron Riley was 31 years old. He was a builder and was known to friends and family as Taz. He was found with his life taken shortly after midnight on the 27th of December in Salford. Police said they were called just after midnight and said that he had suffered serious injuries consistent with using a bladed article. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police then launched a murder investigation. His devastated family went on to pay tribute to their much-loved son, dad, grandson and brother. They said they would miss his huge cheeky smile and great sense of humour, adding he was a super talented builder who would be missed deeply. In January 2023, a 17-year-old male was arrested on suspicion of murder. No further details have been revealed about the 17-year-old male. Detectives have asked members of the public to come forward with information they feel would assist them in their ongoing investigation. Scott Cooper was 33 years old when he died in a flat in Ryde in the Isle of Wight after an attack on the 3rd or 4th of January. He was killed in a bedroom before he was dragged and left in a shower. CCTV footage showed Scott Cooper, who was a user of substances, entering various flats on George Street late on the 3rd of January, kicking, knocking or trying to force the doors open. Piers Brazier then opened the door at about 11 p.m. and they both went into Piers Brazier's flat. Brazier was later arrested and charged with Scott Cooper's murder. Prosecution said that Brazier was the only person who had the chance to inflict the savage, determined and sustained attack. Brazier asked an ex-girlfriend to his flat after the attack so he could see her one last time. She saw Scott Cooper's body lying in the bedroom and assumed it was a joke before she saw lots of blood. She alerted her boyfriend by text message, who called police on her behalf. Officers arrived at around 2:45 a.m. after the woman had left. The police handled this awfully. They believe they had been called to a domestic dispute and searched the untidy flat. Unable to find a woman, they left shortly after. One officer actually apologised for disturbing Mr. Brazier and in an offhand comment said they had to make sure no one was lying on the floor in a pool of blood. They had actually failed to spot Scott Cooper's body, which had been placed in the shower. Mr. Brazier's ex-girlfriend continually phoned the police throughout the 4th of January and made it abundantly clear officers had to attend the property. Other CCTV footage showed Mr. Brazier riding an electric scooter around Ryde and shopping in a convenience store for groceries at about 5 a.m. The police arrived for the last time at 10 to 1 in the morning and then arrested Mr. Brazier that afternoon. After the trial, Hampshire Police said that they had referred themselves to the Watchdog, the Independent Office for Police Conduct, due to the circumstances surrounding our response to this incident. He had one trial and then a retrial, which happened on the 5th of January 2023. Following a trial at Newport Crown Court, he was found not guilty of murder. Throughout the two lengthy trials, Piers Brazier denied killing Scott Cooper. The original trial, the jury failed to reach a verdict. As a result, this retrial began and he was found not guilty and acquitted. Detective Chief Inspector Admin Edwards said, "Officers worked tirelessly to bring this investigation before the courts. We are disappointed by today's verdict. However, we must respect the jury's decision. We hope that the public remain reassured that we will always do everything in our power to investigate incidents such as these thoroughly, to support the families of victims and to protect the wider public. Our thoughts remain with Scott's family and friends." Just 4 months after being acquitted, Pierce Brazier died. The circumstances of his death have not been confirmed. Zoe Nicklin was 44 years old when she was found dead at a property in Atwood Close in Wolverley on the 18th of January. A 49-year-old man was arrested by officers on the 25th of January on suspicion of murder and has since been released under investigation. Her family said, "As a family, we are devastated by the loss of Zoe and will never forget the kind, loving and crazy daughter, sister, mother and friend that she was. We respectfully request that we are allowed to grieve in private as a family at this difficult time." The police said the death was believed to have been an isolated incident, but has appealed for anyone with information to come forward. There has been no further updates. Bill Witham was rushed to hospital in a life-threatening condition after emergency services discovered him unconscious in Lower Lane in the village of Holbridge. Essex police believe the 68-year-old was assaulted outside a property in Rochford at around 5:30 a.m. on the 12th of September. Despite the doctor's best efforts, he passed away in hospital 2 weeks later. Bill was a well-known musician who played under the stage name Napa Swan and performed in pubs across the country. A statement released by the police said, "He was a much-loved character with a big heart and an even bigger smile. He will be sadly missed by all his friends and family and will forever be in our hearts." A 33-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of GBH following the incident but has now been released on bail. There has been no further movement in Bill's case. Jacqueline Rutter was 53 years old when she was answering her door of her home in the Wirral on the 30th of October 2022. When she answered the door, someone with a firearm shot her and took her life. Merseyside police arrested 8 people in connection, but as of yet no one has been charged with her murder. In a statement issued via the police, her family urged the culprits to consider, how would you feel if this was your mum's sister or relatives? Detectives said they believed 2 or 3 people were involved in the targeted shooting. At about 1 a.m, a black Vauxhall Insignia, which was seen in the area between 1:45 and 1:15 in the morning, is believed to have been involved. Detective Inspector Steve McGrath, who is leading the inquiry, said several people remain under active investigation, but urged anyone with information to come forward. Don't assume what you know is trivial or already known. He said, "We will make that assessment and can assure people who may feel fearful of coming forward that we will deal with all information sensitively." Detective Inspector McGrath appealed to anyone close to the killers to please search your conscience and come forward with what you know, so that Jacqueline's family can finally find peace and justice. Her family said, "Every day we sit here and wonder why your killers had to make it so final for you and cause a lifetime of suffering on your family and friends." Addressing those responsible, they said, "You chose to shoot the terrified Jacqueline, who they said ran to her stepfather who she lived with before collapsing and dying in his arms." This case now is a bit different. There were charges, but no charges of murder. Kieran Williams was 18 years old when he went missing from his home in Sunderland on the 18th of April. His body was later found in a shallow makeshift grave on a disused industrial estate in the city on the 31st of May. 2 men were charged in connection with his death but were acquitted of murder at Newcastle Crown Court. Lewis Hackett, who was 20 years old, was found guilty of manslaughter and jailed for 5 years. His fingerprints were found around the grave, but other fingerprints discovered there have never been identified. When he was found between the Northern Spire Bridge and Claxhoo Rocks, he had been attacked multiple times with a bladed article, and he was then set on fire. A judge at the hearing said that his killer remained at large and the real perpetrator or perpetrators had got away with it. His mother Tracy said that she was begging anyone with information to come forward and for them to try to imagine the pain and desperation she felt every minute of every hour of every day. Susan Moore was 53 years old when she was found by police at a property on Redbrook Way in Wales on the 27th of August. Gwent police and paramedics found her at the address following reports of an assault. She was taken to the University Hospital of Wales in Cardiff, but later died of her injuries. Police said Susan lived her life to the full, and there was certainly never a dull moment. She was a proud daughter and mother of 3 who will be sorely missed. Soon after, a local man was arrested. He was 48 years old and was remanded in custody before appearing at court. A second man, who was 45 years old, was arrested on suspicion of murder, but was released on conditional bail as inquiries continued. The Detective Chief Inspector Matthew Sedgbeer said, "Our community has played a vital role in this case, and we thank them for the support so far. Our thoughts are with Susan's family and friends at this time. As part of our investigation, we're keen to hear from anyone who may have seen or spoken to Susan between Thursday the 25th of August and Saturday the 27th of August. We'd also like to speak to anyone who was in the Southville area near Redbrook Way between midnight and 7:30 a.m. on Saturday the 27th of August and has CCTV or dashcam footage." Andrew Jenkins was the 48-year-old who was arrested over her death. He was held in custody, but he walked free from a Cardiff Crown Court after prosecutors offered no evidence. Prosecutor Mark Waif said, "We are not in a position to prove this case. Therefore, we intend to offer no further evidence in relation to this allegation or any other allegations arising from the sad demise of Miss Moore, and we formally offer no evidence." He added that medical evidence had been considered at a very great length and very carefully by the prosecution team. Judge Tracy Lloyd Clark told Mr. Jenkins a not guilty verdict would be entered, and proceedings against him were concluded. Jinming Zhang was 41 years old when he had his life taken in Birmingham on the 9th of February 2022. He had his life taken just before 7 p.m. on the Wednesday. He was found at the property on Mosley Street, but nothing could be done to save him, and he was pronounced dead as a result of stab wounds. This property was a brothel, and Jinming was thought to have acted as a security officer there. A woman inside the property, believed to be a lady of the night, was also threatened with violence during the suspected robbery, which then turned into murder. Police released CCTV of the suspect. It's believed that this suspect headed down Mosley Street and turned right into Bartford Street, then towards Cheapside and stopped near a skip. Police believe he was potentially holding an injured hand. The killer may have climbed on top of a van to get over a fence and a gate, and then down the ladder and into the river Rhea below. It is then believed he burnt clothes near the water's edge in a forensically aware plan. Blood was also found on the ladder and next to the pile of charred clothes, 300 metres away. Police said in a documentary that these did not match the victims and believe it could belong to the killer. The force believe that the 5'5" prime suspect was captured on the CCTV around the time of the murder on the 9th of February. He was hooded and masked and was revealed to have a distinctive walk, but remains at large. Police revealed that a man was arrested on suspicion of murder in relation to this case. The man was held in custody and gave a false name to police. DNA checks were carried out on the blood trail, the blood on the ladder and near the burnt clothing. It was checked against those on the National Police DNA database, with 5 million people's profiles are kept if they've been arrested, cautioned or convicted of an offence. No matches were found to anyone on the police's database, including the man in custody. He was later released without charge. Craig Fitzpatrick was 33 years old when he died following an assault in Hayward. His friend Liam O'Brien was charged with a single offence of manslaughter. The jury at court were told Mr. O'Brien had booked into a 2-day training session on installing flooring, which ran from the 13th of January to the 14th of January. Both men went along and stayed in the village hotel. Craig had driven Mr. O'Brien there. During the night, Mr. Fitzpatrick was seen going down to reception, with both men leaving the hotel at 2:30 a.m. and returning at 4:30 a.m. The prosecutor said that the next morning, Craig dropped O'Brien off to the course, where he stayed all day until he got a lift back at around 4:15 p.m. Craig went back to the hotel and later complained about his hotel room key not working. Staff issued him with a new hotel room key, and during the day he had a conversation with a friend about having a drug DMT and allegedly having a half a bottle of gin in his room. At 2:20 p.m. he went back to reception and appeared intoxicated, and the reception cut another hotel room key for him. The prosecutor said at 3 p.m. staff responded to reports from hotel maintenance and went to the second floor. When they arrived at the second floor, they found Craig standing outside in his room, only wearing shorts and swinging fire extinguishers around. Staff told him to put the extinguishers down and go back to his room, and he did so. The reception manager and maintenance manager went to the room, and after receiving no reply from Craig, they went inside to find the TV had been ripped off the wall and the wall sockets had been cracked. It became apparent that Craig was in the bathroom, and they asked him to leave, but there was a limited reply. When Liam got back to the hotel room at 4:50 p.m, he asked staff what was going on and went into the room and was clearly surprised and angry at the state of it. He said, "What the F has gone on in this room? He's a cheeky C," and apologised to the staff. Hotel staff and Liam were able to get into the bathroom, where they found Craig asleep on the shower tray, and Liam was seen to move his foot towards Craig's stomach, which caused him to get up and into a fighting stance. Words were exchanged, and Liam said, "What the F are you doing? What have you done?" There was a scuffle, and Liam punched Craig, after which he slumped against the wall and slid down. Liam was said to be acting erratically, and staff asked him to calm down and leave the room. Liam left the hotel, but later attended by appointment at the police station, during which he explained Craig had driven him to the hotel and that he had wanted a drink, so they had vodka and gin along with some substances. He said he had slept from around 4 a.m. until 8 a.m. and then had been dropped off to the course. Craig then phoned him saying that they needed some more substances, and Liam later got a lift back from the course from his tutor. When he got back, he found the room was trashed. He said the bathroom door was locked and he tried to knock on the door. Craig wouldn't, so he left, but later came back and shook him awake, during which he took a fighting stance and looked at him in a weird way. Liam said he thought Craig was going to hit him, so he punched him to the face once with each hand. He said he didn't intend to hurt him, and added that he panicked after leaving the room, called his girlfriend and got in a taxi. Craig passed away on the 16th of January, and a report concluded that he passed away as a result of a hemorrhage, which is most commonly caused by a blow or blows to the head. On the 18th of January, Liam was arrested at his home address and interviewed. At his trial, he said he only shook him. He didn't kick or punch him whilst he was on the bathroom floor. At the trial, the closing statement read, "We agree and accept that he did not intend to cause really serious harm, but we say it was the act of punching him to the head resulting in the head injury that killed Craig." He was acquitted of the murder. Troy Harkness was 22 years old when he was found seriously injured in Abbey Road in Basingstoke at 11:15 on the 19th of January. He was taken to Basingstoke and North Hampshire Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. 25-year-old Jordan Clark was charged with his murder and appeared at Winchester Crown Court and was remanded in custody ahead of a further hearing, which happened on the 18th of July. 2 other men, both 19 and from Basingstoke, were arrested on suspicion of robbery as part of the investigation. Both men were bailed. Following a trial at Winchester Crown Court in relation to the death of Troy in Basingstoke, Jordan Clark, who was 26 at this point, of no fixed address, was found not guilty of murder by a jury. At the trial, the man said that he didn't believe that he stabbed anyone. It was heard that no one saw the man take out a knife and no one saw him stab Troy. The prosecution claimed that the man had gone to Melrose Walk armed with a knife after Troy Harkness had taken his substances and bike. The defence stated that although the man had a knife with him at the time, when he had taken it out, he had only held it at his side to defend himself and scare Troy away. It was further heard that when the man was arrested and the police seized the knife that he had been holding, that none of Troy's DNA was found on it. However, it was heard that some of Troy's DNA was found on one of the man's gloves. Takayo Nembhard was 21 years old when he was stabbed in Ladbroke Grove under the Westway flyover at around 8 p.m. on the 29th of August. It was the final day of Notting Hill Carnival. He was pronounced dead after being taken to hospital. A post-mortem gave the cause of death as a wound with a blunt force item. He was a rapper using the name Take or Stretch and was expecting a baby with his partner and had travelled from his home in Bristol to visit the carnival with his sister and friends. His son was born in November 2022. Police said there was a large crowd in the area when he was attacked in an apparently unprovoked event. 5 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder during the investigation, but nobody has been charged. In August 2023, the charity Crime Stoppers offered a £20,000 reward for information leading to a conviction. During the renewed appeal, Detective Inspector Laura Semple of the Met Police said his family remained devastated at his loss. His son is growing up having never known his dad. Alex Holland was 27 years old when he lost his life. At 9 p.m. on Sunday, the 28th of November, Alex Holland told his mum he was going outside for a cigarette before taking a shower and going to bed. He was a father of 2 young girls and he was living with his parents after separating from his wife for 5 years. He was due to start work the next day as a delivery driver for Plums in Dover and had a dentist appointment booked, but he didn't return home that night or the following day. His mum Rachel reported him missing just before 7:30 p.m, almost 24 hours after he had last been seen. That same day, the courtesy car he was using while his own was being repaired was found in Jubilee Road. A search was made within a 500-metre radius of the vehicle with the help of a police helicopter, which arrived just before dawn on the 30th of November. On the 17th of February 2022, 81 days after Alex had disappeared, his body was discovered in a ditch near a pumping station in Kent. A post-mortem examination officially classed Alex's death as unascertained, and an inquest in the June could only come up with an open conclusion. There were no obvious signs of violence to him nor any evidence he had taken his own life. Small amounts of substance and alcohol were found in his system, but not at the levels that would make it a factor. A GP report to the inquest said that while Alex had an anxiety and depression disorder, he had never expressed any thoughts that he wanted to take his own life. His family have several questions that are unanswered. On one anniversary of the discovery, they have told of the anguish that endures. His mother said, "It has been sheer hell for us, knowing that Alex is no longer here but not really knowing what happened to him. Now we just want justice for Alex." His family say if he had walked that distance, why would he do it with one shoe? How could he even do it, especially over ground with grit, stones, brambles and weeds? Why was his mobile phone bought only 2 days before his disappearance left in his car? What happened to his wallet, which contained his driving licence and hundreds of pounds in cash? He had it when he left the house, but it was not found with him, nor in his car. The family also questioned how Alex would have managed to avoid falling into a number of waterways between Worth and Pinnock Wall. Had he been walking the route in the dark? The family appealed against the force's formal response. Kent police concluded there was no case to answer for misconduct. It accepted there had been some failings in communication, but lessons were being learnt. One officer who was classed as performing in not a good manner by the investigators has since retired. Alex's family said, if this has been requested by Kent police in the first couple of weeks of Alex's disappearance, maybe a better picture could have been built of his last known movements and any potential third party. Graeme Hutcheson was 33 years old when he had his life taken in March 2022 in Dundee. Police raced to the home in Whitfield Avenue at around 11 p.m. and discovered him. Kerry Hutchinson, who was 32 years old, was arrested. She appeared in private at a Dundee Sheriff Court accused of killing Graeme. She made no plea and was released on bail. The emergency services were called to the property following a report of concern for a person. In her trial, she pleaded in self-defence, and the defence noted his past convictions of domestic violence. A verdict of not proven was returned. Petru-Sorin Doleanu was 41 years old when he passed away in hospital on the 29th of March as a result of brain injuries he suffered during an assault 3 months earlier. Police said he was with two friends near a job centre in St John's Road, Wembley, when he was approached by an unknown man and punched in the head shortly before 9 p.m. His friends called an ambulance the following morning and paramedics alerted police at around 11 a.m. He remained in hospital until his death. A 24-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of murder on the 15th of July 2022 and has since been released under investigation. Lamar Leroy Griffiths was just 21 years old when he lost his life in Sheffield on the 1st of April. He was hit by a bullet when two men opened fired at a car wash and he passed away from his injuries. Detective Chief Inspector Andrea Boal said he was simply going about his normal life and police did not believe he was a target of the attack. Two men have been jailed for helping two suspected murderers flee the country. Abdul Hakim, who's 26, and Nasser Nashir was 33, both pleaded guilty to assisting an offender in connection with the death of Lemar. Detective Inspector said that Hakim made attempts to set fire to the vehicle used in the attack. Both he and Nashir then made extensive car journeys driving the suspects to various points of exit within the UK in order to help the suspects flee the country. She added they were determined and persistent in their efforts and faced challenges due to COVID restrictions which were in place at the time. Hakim also pleaded guilty to arson and possession of substances with intent to supply, as well as possession of an offensive weapon in a public place in relation to a separate incident. The inspector said the investigation had been complex and lengthy, adding, "We realise that a wait for justice takes a further toll on the grieving family. The investigation continues to progress and we will do everything within our power to bring those they helped before the UK courts. No one has ever been charged with murder." Dale Simmons had his life taken in Kent on the 1st of April. Dale was homeless and he was being chased by four youths. He jumped over a fence and fell off a cliff. Dale was found on the Thursday near Chalkpit Hill in Kent. The day after, it's believed he had passed away. Four teenagers aged 16 to 18 who knew the victim had been taken into custody. Police were treating it as suspicious. It's alleged a couple came across four teenagers and the boy chased Mr. Simmons into a nearby back garden. The prosecution claimed that he had jumped over the back wall in an attempt to escape, falling to his death. No one has been charged within the case. Daneche Tison was 26 years old when he was shot outside a block of flats in Brockner Street in Queen's Park City of Westminster at around 1:56 a.m. on the 19th of July. He arrived at hospital at 2:10 a.m. but passed away after. A post-mortem found that he had passed away to a shot to the heart and one in the back. 8 men were arrested during the investigation, but nobody has been charged. His family has always appealed for more information, saying, "It's been a month since we lost our beloved son, brother, grandson and nephew. Our lives will never be the same. Our sole mission now as a family is to find out who's responsible for cutting such a young and talented life short before this time. We will not rest until we do. We would appreciate anyone who may have any information to please just contact the police." Karl Skoulding was 43 years old from St Edmunds. He was declared deceased shortly after officers arrived at a scene in Holland Court at around 3 p.m. on the 26th of April. Police were first alerted to an incident by a member of the public who reported an incident had taken place around 3 p.m. in a car park in Holland Court, just off of Station Hill. Officers then found a man and woman inside a flat nearby who had both been attacked. He was declared deceased shortly after officers arrived. Thankfully, she survived. Police said quickly that they believed that the parties involved were all known to one another and additional officers were put on the investigation. Soon after, a 38-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of murder and a 17-year-old boy from Ipswich was arrested on suspicion of murder. Unfortunately, there has been no charges in this case. Officers from the major investigation team are still establishing the exact circumstances of the attack, and forensic inquiries are still ongoing, as well as a detailed look at CCTV footage. Detectives continue to appeal for any witnesses to the attack and would like to hear from anyone who was around the area of Holland Court between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. Holscher-Ermert had his life taken at 27 years old when he was knocked down by police officer Christopher Corker, who was 40 years old. This happened in Peacehaven, East Sussex, on the 30th of April. Arthur was struck by the vehicle just after 11:10 p.m. and was confirmed dead at the scene. PC Corker of Witham in West Sussex pleaded not guilty to causing death by dangerous driving and causing death by careless or inconsiderate driving. He had been due to face a trial, but the prosecutor, Jonathan Sandiford, offered no evidence at the hearing. He said that in light of experts' reports, there was no longer a realistic prospect of a conviction. It had been alleged that PC Corker deliberately steered on the wrong side of the road towards the pedestrian in a misguided and dangerous attempt to stop him running away. However, the court was told of an agreement between experts that the defendant's actions in steering onto the wrong side of the road would have avoided a collision had the deceased not changed direction. Judge Marks formally entered not guilty verdicts and offered his condolences to the family, saying, "It appears to have been a tragic accident." In a statement after the hearing, the family said, "Instead of attending trial today, we as a family have had to process the sudden news that the Crown prosecution are discontinuing criminal proceedings against PC Corker. This is incredibly upsetting and disappointing. We are hoping to start to get answers about what happened to Arthur and why. We are shocked to now find out that PC Corker isn't going to be held criminally accountable for what he has done." The family said they would continue to fight for truth and accountability and would now look ahead to the inquest. Camilo Palacio was 22 years old when he was found with his life taken near Wood Green Tube Station in High Road in London at 9:30 p.m. on the 24th of July. He was pronounced dead at the scene at 10 p.m. The suspects are believed to have opened fire from a dark-coloured Range Rover. At least 6 shots were fired. A 22-year-old man was charged with murder on the 4th of July, but the case was dropped on the 14th of September after further evidence showed he was not in the area at the time of the murder. 2 suspects were then charged and convicted in relation to destruction of the Range Rover, which was abandoned and set on fire in Alexandra Road. In June 2024, an inquest heard detectives had been unable to identify the suspects responsible for the shooting, so the case remains unsolved. Kelly Louise Randall suddenly disappeared from Wales. She was last seen on the 3rd of May 2022 and her partner reported her missing 2 days later on the 5th of May. Police launched a missing persons search and inquiries into her whereabouts began. She was found to be low-risk missing person despite being a wheelchair user. Almost a week later, her risk level was upgraded to a medium, which prompted officers to search her home in Swansea. They checked local hospitals and reviewed CCTV footage. She was found under a pile of rubbish in a garden in another property in Swansea. The police then searched this property, where the wheelchair was found in one of the bedrooms. Homeowner Alfred Millman allowed officers into his property, where they found bloodstains on a jumper, mattress, bedsheet and bed frame. It was also discovered a pile of rubbish at the back of the property with clothing, a trainer and what seemed to be her limb. Her body was found and a man was arrested on suspicion of murder. The inquest was held at Guildhall in Swansea. It heard how the mother had a history of substance issues and was on medication at the time of her death. She had been known to self-harm and was suffering from depression. A statement read out at the inquest by her partner of 25 years said the couple would use some substances. It was also heard how on the last day she was seen, she was taken to the hospital by paramedics after falling from her wheelchair. The inquest heard that day she spoke about taking her own life. A post-mortem examination showed that there were no evidence of a heart attack, a stroke, or any traumas to her head. Forensic pathologist Dr. John Williams said he could not be certain as to when exactly she passed away. Alcohol was found in her blood, but it wasn't very high. Other substances were also found in her blood. Dr. Williams said he could not rule out the possibility together this could have had a sedative effect, or they played a significant role in her passing. There were no pathological findings that her death was due to forced injury by another person, but said he could not prove that her death was a result of substances. Due to this, he said his opinion of the cause of death was unascertained. Maximillian Kusi-Owusu was 29 years old when he was shot near a block of flats in Kensington High Street, West Kensington, London, at 2:02 a.m. on the 4th of September. He passed away in hospital at 5:32 a.m. The father of two was known as a drill rapper under the name M. Lowe. A 29-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of murder but was released with no further action. On the first anniversary, Detective Chief Inspector Mike Nolan said, "Our investigation remains ongoing and we are determined to find whomever is responsible for this tragic incident. Whilst we have carried out an extensive investigation, including a thorough review of local CCTV, we still require your help. It has been a year since Maximilian was taken and his family are still without the answers they need. I am asking for your help to identify who fired that shot. I am certain that someone has information that will allow us to make arrests." They said they are very interested in anyone who has information regarding a silver Alfa Romeo seen in the area at the time. Italian-born Carlo Giannini was 34 years old when he was found with his life taken in Manor Fields on the 12th of May. A murder probe was launched and 4 knives were recovered during a search of the scene. South Yorkshire police say 6 people have been interviewed, 5 on suspicion of murder and 1 on suspicion of assisting an offender, but as yet it remains unsolved. Carlo's family have paid tribute, saying, "There isn't a day that we don't think about Carlo. We live that 12th May every day, remembering what happened." Michael Agyare was 24 years old when he was attacked on Fairfield Road and lost his life on the 13th of October. Police were called at 10:17 p.m. after the victim went for help in a pub garden in Fairfield East. Paramedics and the London Air Ambulance attended, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. A post-mortem found that he had been attacked with a blunt force item in the neck and chest. Detectives appealed for witnesses, but nobody has been charged with the murder. In April 2024, an inquest heard that the suspect wanted by police in connection with the attack had fled to Turkey and cannot be returned to the UK to stand trial due to his Turkish heritage. Sarah Ashcroft was 43 years old and was found at her home by police in Preston. The police said that her death is being treated as unexplained. A post-mortem examination to establish the cause of death was inconclusive. A 44-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of murder, but has been bailed and has not been charged in the case. Her son Charles, who was 19 at the time, said, "She had been a wonderful mother, daughter and sister. She has brought so much love and light into my life and others since the day I was born and continues to even now. She will be so dearly missed." Lemar was 27 years old when he had his life taken at Rowton Road in Lambeth, London at 7:50 p.m. on the 30th of October. He had been in a white MG car which collided with a moped rider while being chased by a second vehicle. The moped rider, De Silva, who was 21 years old, was finishing his shift as a delivery driver at the time of the crash. De Silva suffered fatal injuries in the collision at around 7:50 p.m. and passed away at the scene. Lamar, who was known as Perm, got out of the vehicle following the crash and was pursued by a man from a second vehicle before being shot. He passed away at the scene. The gunman then got back into the second car and fled the scene. A 19-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of murder in February 2023, but nobody has ever been charged in the case. David Tolson had attended a drag brunch in Manchester's gay village with his friend, former prison officer James Johnson, and two women on the 25th of June, but later that evening, David passed away during an incident at his apartment in Salford. The incident unfolded on that same evening. He was put in a guillotine hold by James Johnson while they were at his party in Salford. An inquest in his death was then conducted. After arriving at David's flat with two friends, Mr. Johnson put David in the hold, which caused compression of the neck. It was his 40th birthday party. Mr. Johnson told the inquest at Bolton Coroner's Court and his Crown Court trial he restrained his friend because he believed David was going to R him. The court heard that after realising David was unresponsive, he called emergency services, telling them, "I think I've killed my friend." Area Coroner Peter Sidgey has now concluded that David was unlawfully killed and there was no lawful justification for the guillotine hold. James Johnson was found not guilty of charges of murder and manslaughter during his trial. He said at this trial that he had been afraid that he had been drugged and feared that David had been trying to R him. He told the court he had kept hold of his friend until he felt it was safe to let go. Alfred Bates, known as John, passed away in Harlow on the 1st of May. Essex police were called to a disturbance in Spencer's Croft. In a statement, the family said that the 73-year-old was a beloved husband to his wife of 52 years, a devoted father of two, a loving grandfather to his two grandchildren that he raised and his three great-grandchildren. He was a well-known and loved member of the community who always had a big smile on his face and always wanted to help in any way he could. He will be truly missed by his family, friends and all that knew him. He will forever be in our hearts and will never be forgotten. Another man was injured during the incident and was taken to hospital. 4 people have all been arrested in connection with the incident. One was also arrested as he had possession of substances. Although 4 people have been arrested, there has been no movement in the case and no one has been charged with his murder. Charlotte Holland was just 20 years old when she was found under a window. She had fell from the 3rd-storey house. Neighbours feared she may have laid undiscovered for several hours before she was found at daybreak in August 2022. Police said Charlotte died of unexplained injuries and a man was arrested on suspicion of murder but was released on bail while police continued their investigations. Emergency services were called to the 3-storey red brick Victorian house in Hereford at 5 a.m. on the 17th of July. Police confirmed the young woman, also known as Charlotte Savage, was dead at the scene and her next of kin were informed. Neighbours said she may have gone to cool off at the 3rd-storey window of the attic flat or was sitting on the ledge smoking a cigarette when she fell. A neighbour said the top floor of the houses get very hot. I heard she was at the attic window cooling off and having a cigarette. It must have been in the early hours. She could have been alive on the ground under the window for some time. It's tragic for the young woman and her family. She didn't live here, she was just staying overnight. Charlotte, who had just passed her driving test, was staying with a male friend who rented the top floor flat of the 3-storey property. The police confirmed a 21-year-old local man was arrested and released on bail. Detective Inspector Mark Walters said, "This is an incredibly sad incident and our thoughts go out to the family of the young woman who has lost her life. The man was never charged and the police believe this was a tragic accident." Mohammed Kasim was 30 years old and a father who had his life taken in Birmingham in July. The 30-year-old was in a car on Eversley Road in Small Heath when he and another man were shot at. The pair made their way to hospital, but he passed away a short time later. The second man suffered injuries that were not believed to have been life-threatening, which happened just after midnight on the 7th of July. Police carried out CCTV and other inquiries in the area to establish who was responsible. One man was arrested in Saltley, and lots of other addresses around the city were searched. The suspect remained in custody but was never charged with his murder. A blue Ford car with false plates was found abandoned less than half an hour away from where the shooting happened, and it's believed it was linked to the shooting. In a statement after the crime, his family said, "A kind-hearted, selfless, caring person, an amazing dad, son and brother who will be missed so dearly." Jordan Stewart was 37 years old when he had his life taken in North London. The victim's brother Adam Stewart was at the crime scene in Grove Court. On the Wednesday, he described Jordan, who was 37, as a lovely, bubbly guy who was about to start work for him. He said, "He was bubbly and good to know. We lost our mother recently and he was devastated. He was getting his life on track though and was due to start work for me in a couple of days. I was looking forward to it. We were brought up around here and now I live in Colchester. He was starting a new life with me. He loved his family." Police were called to Grove Avenue just before 7 a.m. on Wednesday and found the victim with wounds. Despite the best efforts of paramedics and the London Air Ambulance, he was pronounced dead at the scene. Neighbours said how they described that they had heard shouting and a piercing scream at around the time of the incident. Forensic officers were trawling the scene while homicide detectives were carrying out door-to-door inquiries. A man in his 30s was arrested on suspicion of murder but was released. No one has ever been charged. Mark Davison was 59 years old when he had his life taken in an altercation on the 27th of May. Emergency services were called to the town at 2:10 p.m. on the day of the incident, following what was described by police as an altercation. Mark was treated by paramedics at the scene, but was pronounced dead. His family said Mark was a much-loved husband, father, grandfather, brother, uncle and friend who will be dearly missed. He is in the thoughts and prayers of his family and friends in the UK and in Gambia. At the time, a man and a woman, both aged in their 40s, were arrested on suspicion of murder. Both were bailed under investigation. However, no charges have ever been made against the pair. Joshua Hughes was just 22 years old when he passed away on the 16th of June 2022 while having a fight outside of a club. Sean Orrell, who was 32 from Greater Manchester, claimed he was acting in self-defence when he hit Joshua outside Glow nightclub in Lancaster. Mr. Hughes had been thrown out of the club after a woman said he slapped her on the bottom. The club security team carried him head first out of the club and down 3 steps to the street. Sean Orrell, one of the security bouncers, told the jury at Preston Crown Court that Joshua wouldn't leave his bottle of beer when asked to. Outside the club, Joshua got up and was joined by 3 friends in the street. A confrontation happened where Joshua and his friends challenged the doorman. Joshua told Sean to step forward from the protective line they had formed at the side of the road. Sean said the aggression from the group of the 4 didn't stop despite attempts by security to calm the situation. CCTV shown at court showed that Joshua punched Sean in the face. The bouncer said the blow caused him to lose one of his front teeth. At that point, he punched Joshua, who hit his head on the pavement as he fell. Joshua suffered a fractured skull and was taken to the Royal Preston Hospital where he passed away on the 16th of June. During the trial, Joshua's friends told the court they were upset at seeing their friend being handled roughly from the club. They didn't understand why he was removed. Sean explained to the court that Joshua had spat at him before he punched him. He felt the group of men were a serious threat to himself, his colleagues and people in the nightclub. He said he returned the punch with the force he met me with. After the club's medic gave first aid to Joshua, Sean went back inside. He was arrested on suspicion of GBH with intent and later charged with manslaughter after Joshua passed away. But after watching CCTV and hearing from Sean's friends as well as Joshua's friends, the jury took just over 2 hours to clear Sean of the charge. Tristan Holmes' murder investigation was opened in 2022, even though he was attacked in 2015. It began after the 23-year-old man passed away from his injuries 7 years after being stabbed. Tristan Holmes suffered a punctured liver when he was attacked in the car park of Meter Pub in Derby in 2015. He had to have 3 liver transplants, but they failed and he passed away in 2022. The force has now released CCTV footage of the attack, which happened on the 13th of December 2015, when Tristan was just 15 years old. hoping people in the community will now come forward for the murder investigation. His father said, "I am just hoping he will be brought to justice eventually. We are talking about my child that has been taken." Detective Chief Inspector Greg McGill, who's leading the investigation, said Tristan was killed that day in 2015. It was only through the work of medical teams that he survived for so long. The impact of that day on Tristan's family and loved ones has been enormous. While the CCTV itself is not of good enough quality to identify the person who attacked Tristan, I am certain that there are people in the community who know who they are. What I'm hoping to achieve is justice for Tristan and his family. The police urge anybody who knew what happened to the offender or what happened to the weapon after the attack to contact the police. There has been no charges. Samuel Diasa was a devout Christian and described as a kind and gentle soul by friends. He was 39 years old when he passed away after suffering medical difficulties. He was a York rugby player and was known as Sam to his family and friends. After he passed away, his devastated family confirmed, as well as the police, that he was not involved in a robbery before his death, which was reported in the national press. North Yorkshire police were called to the Mappin and Webb store in Coney Street at 4:40 p.m. on the 26th of July, where they found him being restrained by a member of shop staff and members of public. The force confirmed that he began to have medical difficulties and was rushed to hospital. 3 men, 2 in their 40s and 1 in his 50s, were arrested by police in connection with the disturbance at the York jewellery shop. All 3 men were released on bail. Opening an inquest into his death, coroner Jonathan Leach said it appeared that he passed away from heart disease after being restrained. There have never been any charges. Michael McDonough was 53 years old and was staying at the Park Dean Resort in Camber Sands when police were called to reports of a group altercation. 7 people were arrested on suspicion of murder, but no charges have ever been brought. A spokesperson for the resort said they continue to assist authorities. He was a father of 6 from London who was on holiday at the site with his wife and 3 of his children when he passed away. At the time, in a statement, Sussex police said they have been conducting a thorough, complex investigation which had involved taking over 150 statements and a review of CCTV footage. A spokesperson for Camber Sands Holiday Park said, "We recognise that this is a difficult time for the family and we will continue to assist the authorities in this matter." He was an Irishman and he was murdered in the holiday park after a row broke out when people gathered in a bar on site to watch a football game on the TV. It appears that he was pinned down and could be heard complaining he could not breathe before losing consciousness. Paramedics treated him at the scene for over an hour, but their efforts to save him were unsuccessful and he was pronounced dead just after midnight. This occurred at this Park Dean resort, which is now actually closed. The game that they were watching were between Crystal Palace and Arsenal. 7 people have been arrested on suspicion of murder, but all have been released without charge. As the police say, the investigation continues. Sam Rimmer was just 22 years old from Bootle. He was shot in the street on the 16th of August by 2 people thought to be on electric bikes. He was taken to hospital afterwards but was pronounced dead a short while later. Merseyside police said that a 23-year-old man from Liverpool had been arrested on suspicion of murder and was being interviewed by detectives. 3 men aged 21, 20 and 17, also from Liverpool, who were also arrested on suspicion of murder, had since been bailed. Detective Inspector John Holden said, "Although we had made several arrests across Liverpool, our inquiries remain ongoing. I would ask anyone who lives in the area of Lavrock Bank or were passing through at around 11:40 p.m. on the 16th of August to please contact police. You may have seen something that could be vital for us and I would urge you to get in touch. If you were in the Dingle and Toxteeth areas and have dashcam, CCTV or Ring doorbell footage, please check it and let us know if you see anything so we can find those responsible for this attack that led to the murder of Sam." Officers did go through CCTV and did speak to witnesses. All those that were arrested have never been charged and there have been no further charges in the case. Kevin John Kennedy had his life taken in Cornwall Street, South in Kinning Park in 2022. Police were called as they received a report of a man with serious injuries. He passed away at hospital a few hours later. There was lots of forensic officers combing the area while lots of police officers stood guard. A bouquet of flowers and half a bottle of buckfast was placed at a doorway of a property. The Detective Chief Inspector Peter Sharp said, "We are working to establish the full circumstances of what happened, and our thoughts are with the family of Mr. Kennedy at this difficult time for them. If anyone saw anything or heard anything before or after the incident that might help with our investigation, I would urge them to please come forward. There have been no arrests or charges at all in this case." Grant Lee Goggins was 33 years old and was homeless. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and after 11 years of struggling to find help with his mental health, he became homeless. To deal with the symptoms, he became addicted to substances. On the morning of Thursday, the 10th of November 2022, he was found by a member of the public next to Metcon Gym on Tong Lane. Although an employee of the gym, Mr. Airy, and other members of the public tried to resuscitate Grant with CPR, and paramedics did also try help, they declared he was dead at the scene at 7:20 a.m. Police conducted an investigation and found CCTV footage of two men named Graham Lomax and Stephen Porter transporting him in a shopping trolley close to where he was found. The footage also showed the men emptying the trolley and dumping him onto the ground before fleeing the scene at 3 a.m. Detective Inspector Mark Saunders of the Lancashire Police, who was also present at the inquest, said when police arrested the men later that day, they both answered no comment to the interrogation. He said not only was this an immoral act to do, the fact they also did not conceal his body to the public is shocking. Dr. Charles Wilson, the Home Office forensic pathologist for the North West, told the court that in Grant's post-mortem examination, high levels of multiple substances were found. It was likely that he passed away due to the amount of substances that he consumed, rather than suspicious circumstances. However, Dr. Wilson told the court although Grant may have not been saved if he had been taken to hospital, he was sure that Grant was still alive at the start of the CCTV footage. He said, "I believe he was not dead when he left the trolley, and he could have got an antidote or treatment to reverse the effects of the substances. It would have given a better chance, but I cannot say if he was at the point of no return or not." Although police arrested the two men, they were not charged. Harry Parker was just 14 years old when he passed away after being hit by a car while walking to school in Swindon in November 2022. The driver, Ivy Mwangi, was cleared of the charges due to a lack of evidence, even though she was unlicensed, had no insurance, and initially left the scene. Swindon North MP Will Stone at the time said he introduced the Harry Parker bill to address a dangerous gap in the law which prevented her facing a lesser charge as so much time had passed. She was initially charged with causing death by careless driving and causing death while driving without a licence after the fatal incident, but the Crown Prosecution Service dropped the charges in November 2024 due to a lack of evidence. 61-year-old Brian Gately was found collapsed in Samphire Street in Port Clarence, Stockton-on-Tees on the 28th of November and passed away 2 days later in hospital. A murder investigation was launched with 7 people arrested at the time in connection with what happened, but no one has ever been charged. Cleveland police said that he had been involved in an argument with a group of people outside his home that evening and his window had been smashed. An incident in the Billingham area believed to involve some of the same people, and that happened the same evening when a house was damaged and another man was assaulted. They are still investigating his case, but no charges have ever been made. And that concludes our video today. Like I said in the intro, some of these cases it looks pretty obvious who the culprit is, but it still remains unsolved as the person has not been charged. Of course, there are other cases where it looks like it was just an accident, but because it wasn't classified as this, their case still remains unsolved. I picked the year 2022 randomly, but if you would like me to cover certain years, then please just let me know in the comments. And if you have any information or anything jogs your memory, as always, the contact details are in the description of this video. As always, thanks so much for watching, and until next time.